Welcome to today's explainer. Let's jump right in, because we are looking at a massive shift happening in the mining industry right now. The future of gold extraction isn't just about efficiency anymore. It's going completely green, and it's safer than it has literally ever been in modern history. So if you're operating a plant, or maybe you're just looking to optimize your yield without carrying all that heavy environmental liability, well, you're in exactly the right place. For over a century, as you probably know, gold extraction has had a pretty toxic track record, mostly relying on sodium cyanide. But what's really fascinating here is how clearly the modern alternative stacks up. On one hand, you have traditional sodium cyanide, highly toxic, tied up in incredibly strict regulations, and carrying massive costs for safety, transport, and disposal. And on the other hand, Jinshan. It's an eco-friendly, low-toxicity chemical mixture that acts as a 100% drop-in replacement. That means you get all the leaching power of cyanide, but you don't actually need to rebuild your plant or buy a bunch of new equipment. It's a total game changer. And this official, patented product is what we're going to be breaking down today. Jinshan environmentally friendly gold tressing agent is a high-tech solution that's already being used by major international gold mining enterprises. So today, we're going to roll up our sleeves and look at exactly how to execute this green transition on the ground, right at your own facility.
Here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 1. Eco-friendly setup. 2. Heap and pool leaching. 3. CIP agitation leaching. 4. Key parameters. And finally, 5. Safety protocols.
All right, Section 1. Eco-friendly setup. Why switch to Jinshan?
Before we start talking about the actual plumbing and the processes, we really need to establish why this transition is scientifically and legally sound for your operation. Look, if you're going to replace a foundational chemical in your extraction process, you need rock-solid proof that it works. And this drop-in replacement isn't just some theoretical idea. It is backed by serious scientific validation, comprehensive toxicity testing reports, and ISO 901 quality system certifications. The secret is in its chemical structure, specifically carbonated cyanic acid, sodium, which doesn't easily release free cyanide ions, so its toxicity is incredibly low. This basically gives you the ultimate green light to upgrade your operations safely, keeping you way ahead of those constantly tightening environmental taxes and regulations.
Moving on to Section 2, Heap and Pool Leaching, the execution phase.
Okay, let's walk through the exact chronological life cycle for our first major operational pathway. You start off by crushing the raw ore, and then you stack it into your heap or load it right into your leaching pool, exactly like you normally would. Next up is dosing and mixing. You add the Jinshan agent to water at room temperature and just stir it until it completely dissolves. Now, there's a really clever technique noted in the operational manuals here. You can actually build your dosing pool right next to your barren solution pool. Why? Because this allows the backwater, the water that's already passed through the carbon, to directly wash the Jinshan and automatically dissolve it right into the barren pool. Pretty smart, right? From there, you cycle into spraying with your newly mixed solution, and finally, you move into your standard carbon adsorption, electrolysis, and smelting phases to get your gold mud and ingots. But here is an absolutely crucial point regarding your prep work. For optimal heap or pool leaching using Jinshan, your raw ore must be crushed to a particle size of 30 millimeters or less. Hitting this exact metric ensures the agent can properly penetrate the ore and dissolve the gold with maximum efficiency. Now, that setup is absolutely fantastic for heap leaching. But I know what some of you are probably thinking right now. What if your facility uses an agitation leaching process instead? How does this drop-in replacement work for that setup?
Well, let's dive into Section 3, CIP agitation leaching, adapting for the CIP process.
Notice how the workflow shifts a bit here for the carbon in pulp or CIP process. Instead of just basic crushing, step 1 is intensive grinding. Then you mix that with water to get the perfect slurry concentration. Step 3 is super important. You add the Jinshan agent to dissolve it, but you absolutely must add lime or caustic soda to adjust the pH level before the main agitation phase even begins. Once that pH is locked in, you run a room temperature agitation leaching phase. This usually takes somewhere between 24 to 48 hours. Finally, in the later stages of that leaching, you add your activated carbon to absorb the gold, which leads you right back into the standard parsing, electrolysis, and smelting. And just like we had a golden rule for the crushing size earlier, we've got one for grinding too. I really want to highlight this specific threshold.
Depending on your ore properties, for the CIP process to work effectively with Jinshan, over 90% of your ore needs to be ground to an extremely fine size. We're talking negative 0.074 millimeters. It literally has to be that fine. All right, Section 4, Key Control Parameters, Vital Guardrails. Now that we've got the mechanical processes down, let's look at the vital scientific guardrails. These parameters are exactly what your floor managers are going to need to optimize that yield. First, your target pH value needs to sit strictly between 10.5 and 12, with your ideal sweet spot being right at 11.5. Your dosage concentration will generally fall between 0.3 to 0.8 per mil, though quick side note, for oxide ores you're usually going to aim a bit higher, around 1 to 2 grams per ton. Now when it comes to temperature, keeping your slurry at or above 15 degrees Celsius is absolutely critical. If your plant drops below 10 degrees, you're going to be forced to extend your leaching time just to get that exact same yield. And as for your carbon, the official recommendation is to use specialized golden coconut shell activated carbon. Let's pause and explain the why behind keeping those pH levels strictly below 12. We're not just doing it to be sticklers for the rules. If your backwater pH exceeds 12 for too long, you trigger something called alkali scale. This is a highly problematic buildup that causes liquid passivation, which will literally ruin your activated carbon's ability to absorb the gold. So the rule of thumb, keep the pH regulated, protect your carbon.
Now, because Jinshan actually has a faster leaching speed than traditional sodium cyanide, you've got to stay really on top of your chemical levels. Tell your operators to mentally bookmark this exact calculation. Your makeup dosage equals your optimal target concentration minus your currently measured concentration, all multiplied by your dosing pool's water volume. Doing regular testing of your pregnant solution grade, your pH, and your Jinshan concentration, and then rapidly replenishing using this exact formula, that's how you guarantee your extraction results don't suddenly drop off.
The official math from the operating manual illustrates exactly how regular titration testing of your pregnant solution grade, Jinshan concentration, and pH directly secures your profit margins. It's a relatively simple adjustment, but it yields massive, massive economic returns. Finally, Section 5, Safety and Operating Precautions. Let's talk about the lifeline of your operation, because even with low-toxicity chemicals, you still demand strict respect and rigorous handling protocols out on the floor. Now, the official documentation shows Jinshan has passed rigorous chemical classifications. That means it's guaranteed not to be flammable, it's not explosive, and it's not an oxidizer risk. It's completely safe for ordinary transport by highway, railway, or sea. But, and this is a big but, it is highly hygroscopic. That means moisture is its absolute worst enemy. Let's quickly run through these non-negotiable safety protocols. You must store this product tightly sealed in a shady, dry, and cool place. Once a bag is opened, you have to use it immediately to prevent deliquescence, which, if you're wondering, is just a fancy scientific word for the chemical absorbing moisture right out of the air and basically dissolving itself. And remember, while this is an eco-friendly alternative to cyanide, basic personal protective equipment is still an absolute standard. You need to maintain excellent ventilation during operations and always wear protective gloves and masks. And there is one final, absolutely critical warning that jumps right out of the safety manuals. Strictly no solo operations, ever. You must always have at least 2 people on site for safety during the mixing and dosing phases. Safety first, no exceptions. So we've seen the science, we've mapped out the operational processes, and we've run the numbers. You now have a 100% drop-in replacement that retains all the economic power of cyanide without the massive toxic liability. I want to leave you with this question. How will you take this exact playbook back to your plant, balance maximum economic profit with total environmental stewardship, and lead the green revolution in modern gold extraction? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.